Hello, and welcome to English 130, Foundations of Written Communication. I am your instructor for this course, Faith Allaire, and I'm really excited to work alongside you in the next 8 weeks as we really explore what it means to be a writer, predominantly in the sense of an academic writer, but we will sprinkle in just the writing process overall in this class. So, a few things about me. I do have a few degrees, but I'd like to highlight my bachelor's in English and creative writing and my master's in English. For those programs, I went through SNHU. So, I was once in the same seat that you were in, learning through an online format. In fact, in my bachelor program, I was about halfway before we moved to Brightspace. So I have predominantly been at SNHU as long as we've been using this online software. I am a published author. If you Google me, you could probably find some of my work. But I've also helped to publish over 90 books as an indexer. So, working alongside American Psychological Association, I've helped them publish a lot of their trade books. So, there's a lot of experts in their field that want to share their ideas with specific audiences. I've also helped create a lot of business books. If you have ever heard of Reggie Fils-Aimé, he's the former president of Nintendo of America. He has a memoir called Disrupting the Game that I helped index. Another notable name is probably Don Bluth. He was a big time animator in like the 80s and 90s, worked with Disney, had his own production company, and so helping him get his stories out. So I'm very well versed in both academic and professional style writing. And then in my spare time, I do like to cross stitch. Kind of tend to be an old lady in that. If you look at the My Instructor page, you'll see a grayscale photo, what appears as a grayscale photo of a sub going under a bridge. And that's actually a cross stitch that I crafted a few years ago when my husband was serving upon the USS Providence, and it ended up winning a Best in Show, and that's probably the proudest of my accomplishments to date would be composing that work. So a little bit about me in a nutshell when it comes to how I'll be able to help you during your time here at SNHU. I do have office hours. I will be available via email Mondays from 10 to 2 p.m. So if you email me during that time frame, you should get an immediate response. But please email me anytime you have a question. It's usually easier to just get the email out and then I will respond within 24 hours. I do consistently check my email, so it will very likely be quicker than that. But so anytime you feel that you have a question, a comment, a concern, you're feeling a little isolated with the work and you just need someone to kind of support you and be an accountability buddy, I am also here for that. Another way that you can access me, and I will have the link through various parts of our classroom, is that I do have appointments open for booking. So it is through Google Meet. If you have a Google account, it'll allow you to click one of the half-hour blocks, and then we can meet virtually, face to face, if you will, as close as we can get, to help you work along assignments, or even to check in and say hello. So please use these two resources to get to know me and the material better as you move through the next few weeks. So if you are going into our classroom, most of you, it shows me, have already been taking a peek at our classroom, which is great. The best way to kind of prepare yourself for this class is to start to kind of take a look around. And if this is your first time using Brightspace, it tends to be pretty intuitive, but there are a few areas that I would suggest that you kind of keep in mind as you're moving through this course. The main splash page tends to be the announcement section. You'll see that already there are great resources here for you to access and review on your own time. You'll also see that each week tends to get broken down into specific modules, and ideally if you just kind of follow from the top to the bottom, you won't have instructor resources, but the rest you will have. You'll see that it'll allow you to kind of not only get an overview of each expectation, but it'll also show you a percentage scale of what you have accomplished in that section. Most of the information does not open until the week it is available. So even if you take a look at each module right now, you'll only get basically the overview information, and then the task-based stuff will open as needed. That's really important because it helps you pace out the class. You're not rushing to get everything done, quickly. It allows you to kind of digest each task and then have some level of anticipation and preparation for the next set. You can also use the course menu tab at the top in the upper left-hand corner. It kind of also gives you a more general breakdown of information, such as if you only wanted to see what discussions are currently open, you can access it this way. All the assignments have their own tab, so you don't necessarily have to go module to module. And then a grades area where you can review both your current grades and the feedback that I will provide. This week, I'm really asking you to do a few things. The first is to check out the Start Here option. This is everything that you will need to kind of be successful in this class. For example, we have our syllabus that is up and available for those of you that might be new to the syllabus process. A syllabus is essentially the contract between you and I. It lays down the expectations of what we're going to accomplish in the 8 weeks. It breaks down the data that we'll be using to quantify certain bits of information and when. And then it also provides a course schedule. The overview of the purpose of this class can be broken down into 3 course competencies. It's easier to read from this screen, so sorry for switching over quickly. But our main really focuses for the 8 weeks is to analyze a written work. And really, in order to do that, we have to learn critical reading techniques and how to apply them. The next thing is that we're going to learn how to explain using written forms of communication what we felt a writer was doing when they were making choices when they were publishing the work. And we'll really do that by looking at audience, purpose, and subject. And then the next step is to learn how to adapt our writing process to various writing situations. So we want to think of writing as a fluid process and learning how to see how we can make changes as we're moving forward. So with that said, that's our ultimate goal, which is itemized within our syllabus. And let me go back to our syllabus. You'll also see that we have a specific textbook, which is How to Write Anything, a guide and reference with readings. You should have received an Achieve link to access the textbook. It is an ebook that works really well when it comes to annotating and kind of keeping everything in one step. And then you'll see other areas that are important, such as the fact that we are a welcome and inclusive classroom, and that your instructor should be available to you, and the response times you should expect. And another key thing is the grading scale. So everything that will be quantified through a grade in some way is listed on this page or in this table. You'll see that everything kind of gets composed to a total 1,000 points. So you don't necessarily have to do a lot of conversion or math to see what your grade is, because everything ends up being on a percentage scale. For example, we work on the project the whole term long, and it'll end up, the final product will be worth 25% of your grade. And then when it gets quantified as your overall grade, these are the areas to consider. In order to pass this class, you have to have a C, which would be a 73 at minimum or higher to pass. And then another key area is the weekly assignment schedule. So when I was a student at SNHU, the first thing I would do is look at the rubric, and then I would start to plug in this information into my calendar so I kind of could anticipate what was going to be done, because like I said, not everything opens up right away in your classroom. So you won't necessarily see things if you go through each module right now. But this does kind of give you a framework to understand that every week we have some level of reading to do. The readings, they don't take too long, but if you are doing your due diligence and you're annotating them, they can take some time. So you'd want to start preparing for that as well. And then you will see that before each assignment, there is a numerical code with it. So like the first one is 1-1 discussion. These codes link back to the specific area where you can find it in the module-based area. So module 1 and then task 1. So if you are moving through and trying to connect this schedule with the module based, those numbers will come in handy. And then there are other policies, and there are links to further details on them. But one thing to keep in mind is that I do accept late assignments, but there will be a 10% penalty if you do need to turn in work late. However, there is a catch to that, right, or a workaround. If you are communicating with me and letting me know what's going on, and you know like, hey, maybe on Friday you're like, I really didn't have enough time this week to focus on the assignment. If you let me know before the due date that you might need some more time, I can waive that late fee. The main thing is the stronger you can communicate with me, the more that we're on the same page with things, the better and more successful you will be overall. But take it as you can. Life happens. And we also have a student handbook. You should already be familiar with that, but if you're not, please use that link. And then there's various other things to consider that will make you successful in this class. So please review the syllabus and kind of get a good understanding of what our contract is with each other. Some other key areas in our the Start Here section is some general information that is not only beneficial in this class, but in all of the classes that you'll be taking. There is a quick overview of this class, and it is in a video format, which kind of makes it more interactive sometimes. We also have a course map. That is what I showed you a little earlier, where it kind of breaks down some of the expectations, such as that our class can be broken down into 2 parts, and what those 2 parts will look like, and when you'll be working on certain sections of the parts. You'll see that they're not necessarily chronological. So it does help to sometimes have a visual about what you're doing and when. And then really how we're breaking down some of the elements that you are expecting to experience in this class, and when you'll make that connection with the assignments. So keep that in mind, that this is also a great resource, especially if you are a visual student, which I tend to be. I really like all the visual elements. And then some other general tools and strategies, like Macmillan Achieve is where our textbook is and some of our assignments are. And then just some other important areas. There's also a general questions tab. You can find that in the discussion tab as well. But if there's something that you have a question on, it's very likely your classmates do too. And so checking the discussion post or contributing questions to this general questions post will overall improve everyone's experience as we're moving forward. So again, please check the Start Here option. There's also another great resource, which is the assignment information tab. Again, this is if you just want to see the overall expectations of each assignment. You'll see that in the title, they start with the module number, so you know when you're going to be working on that assignment. And if you are someone that does like to get ahead and start to prep and plan, this would be a good resource. And it really breaks down a lot of the expectations. So, for example, if we're going to look at the discussion rubric, you do have a discussion post this week, so this is pretty relevant to your expectations. There are some things to keep in mind. The general expectations for the discussion post is listed in the first section, right? So you're expected to write 1 to 2 paragraphs. You should have it posted into our discussion thread by Thursday at 11:59 in the first week. After that, it's your own local time. And then address the specific areas as itemized in the module tab. It's going to be expected that you are thoroughly engaging with your classmates. There's just a great learning opportunity when you're seeing what your own peers are doing with the work. They really allow or provide a great perspective on some of the discussions. And so you can really learn a lot overall by checking what your classmates are posting. And then it will be expected that you do form 2 responses to your classmates each week. There will be guidelines on how you can respond, but it's really breaking down at least in a paragraph, fleshing out some of the ideas, forming deep connections with your classmates, and then expanding on what they have to say. And I will help you and give you feedback and some suggestions on how to do so when we move into each week. I will probably post a few things throughout the week to kind of give you like some facilitation and also to give you some examples and feedback. And then there is a rubric attached with every assignment. On the left-hand side, you'll see there's a criteria section, and then these are the areas that you will be evaluated on. And then there is a rating scale, kind of like either you're doing really well, which is exemplary, or not evident, means it doesn't really exist in the post or the work, depending on how the scale is. And so as I'm evaluating the work, I will use these as a guide on how to assess your work. And then when I'm doing grading, I will also give you feedback specific to each criteria. So be mindful with your grades to check that feedback, because usually what you receive as feedback can be applied in future text. And so it would only grow your writing process if you take the feedback as you're moving forward. So again, we have the assignment page where you can look at each specific breakdown of assignments and then how you will be evaluated. Next is breaking down each module. We are in week 1, starting strong, right? There are a few things to consider. You don't have facilitation notes. That is just for me as an instructor. You would start out with the module 1 introduction. Now, here's what I really like about Brightspace is that if you are just following the process, like everything's been kind of prepped and prepared really well, you can have a healthy structure just by following how things are laid out in each module. The first thing you will have is a module overview for you to kind of get your understanding of what's going on. And if you see in the upper right hand corner here, there's these left and right carrots. These allow you to navigate specifically through this model. And if you just follow these carrots and you follow the order that's set in place, you will be in a good position to do well. So just follow as they are designed. The resources page is an important one this week. It has the readings, right? If you see anything in blue, it leads you right to Macmillan. If it does not load right away like it did for me, it's very likely you have pop-up blockers up, and so you'd want to allow this pop-up as needed, and it'll bring you to the specific part of the text that you are expected to read. And because we are working through Macmillan, you also have a lot of annotation tools that come with reading it this way. So if you wanted to highlight certain text or you wanted to leave yourself notes, it's pretty much built in where you can highlight and you can color code as needed. You can leave yourself notes like, hey, great quote. So you can really follow those critical reading strategies as it was encouraged to do so in the second module tab. And then our first real interactive exercise is to have our very first discussion. It is designed to help to start making you think about your reading process before the class started. So what are you normally reading? What are you, do you consider yourself a reader? And then I totally skipped this. I'm sorry. Please, if you can, let us know a little bit about you. That's how we start to form bonds. We are a writing community. We are meant to be on this process together because we, again, can support each other. And so share a little bit about yourself and then what kind of reader you are. And then the second and third questions were designed to make you kind of break apart the reading process, because there is a big difference once you start to read a lot of the concepts. There's a difference between like personal pleasure reading and then and how you read for an academic setting. And so having a foundation of what your reading process is and what kind of areas we can identify and work on together as you're moving forward in the class, it really goes a long way. So please take some time to let us know a little bit about yourself and your reading practices. After the discussion, there's also the first step of our main project. That's where we're going to interview a text. There are 3 options in the resource tab that are a little bit below our textbook, and they're listed: article selection. These are what are necessary for our major assignment. And this is what you're really going to be focusing on for each project. There are 3 readings. It is expected that you read all 3 of them critically, see which one you find you really form a strong connection with, and then once you've chosen it, then you would go into the article, the interviewing the article. And there are easier ways to get to the thing. I'm just liking the carrot. I get that's back to my own days of working here, of working as a student. So you have the interviewing the text. If you look, there is a hyperlink here that leads you to the breakdown of this assignment. It has an overview and then the directions. And so once you have chosen your text, you're now going to start to review some of the concepts our readings have reinforced at this point, and then start to see how you can answer these series of questions. A great resource for you while you're working on this is to use the Module 1 reading response template. If we click on that, it put an automatic download on it, which is a Word document. And when we open it up, let's see. Oh. This template broke down the expectations, and you just write in a series of questions. If it does feel overwhelming, we also have an exemplar. And so what an exemplar is, it is a sample of what another assignment, which has similar expectations, would look like. So you can kind of model your response to it. And then you can always email me if you had any questions about it, so we can make sure that you are doing your best. So keep in mind, choose one of the 3 readings, and then you'll also review the rubric that is attached to it. So this is how I will grade it. And then you would upload it as a document in the module section here. You can click upload. You can also just take your file and drag it right over in this section here. This is a lot. I promise my videos won't necessarily be as long moving forward. If you have any questions, please email me, book a time, use the general discussion tab. I am here for you throughout the whole process, and I really look forward to working with you in the next few weeks. Have a great first week.